You take Taiwan. That's a country with about Australia's population. It's also more vulnerable because it's got lots more people normally travelling to and from China. But in Taiwan, fewer than 260 people have been affected, and just 2 have died. Even more amazing is that Taiwan has done this without closing its shops or its restaurants or any factories or even markets. Schools have also stayed open, although students were given plastic protection screens. Now, what Taiwan has done instead of shutting down large parts of the economy is isolate the sick or the potentially infectious and check, check, check everywhere. It's got temperature checkers at the airport. It's got them at government buildings. Even private shops and offices check the temperature of customers and ban them from coming in if it's high. Taiwan also has something that we freedom lovers here, or they're freedom lovers there, I guess, but even more so here, probably bridle at. It's integrated its national health insurance database with its immigration one. And that way, if you live in Taiwan and you fly back there, the government knows where you've been, and it tells you to self-isolate. Your mobile phone is then tracked. You leave your home, the authorities will know, and they will ring or text you when you get halfway down the street. Disobey and you could be packed off into quarantine. Now, the contrast between Taiwan and Australia is extraordinary, and few people have seen that more dramatically than Mat Carney. He's a university researcher who flew back yesterday from Taiwan and has a tale that will shock you. I spoke to him earlier from his self-isolation. Carney, thank you so much for joining me. You and your partner have just spent 3 weeks in Taiwan doing research. Tell me about how life there is going on despite the coronavirus.
Yeah, Andrew, we just got back yesterday. Life is pretty much normal in Taiwan. People have small concerns about what is happening, and the government and businesses implemented different procedures, but life is pretty much the same as it was 3 months ago. The markets are busy, the shopping malls are busy, people are out and about. The only difference really is that everywhere you go, if it's into a shop, into a supermarket, into the airport, into the hotel, your temperature's taken and people squirt hand sanitizer straight into your hands. That's pretty much the only change.
So if you walk into a shop, what's the first thing that confronts you?
You have a temperature gun that's put at your forehead, and they take your temperature, making sure you're not over 37.5. If you're under 37.5, you're free to go about into the shop and do your business. There's also... Yeah.
What about the sanitizer? Who gives that out?
There's normally a security guard or an employee that's holding a bottle of hand sanitizer, and it goes straight into your hands. You have to do that, otherwise they won't let you in.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've done that, and you've gone to a market, and all that's happening. What happened? What did you notice when you went to the airport to fly home in Taiwan? What's the airport there? The security, the protections they offer there.
So when we went to Taipei International Airport, 2 nights ago now, we got off the train at Taipei Airport. Our temperature was taken, our hands had hand sanitizer placed into them. We then went to the check-in area. We'll ask a series of medical questions. Our temperature was taken again by the airline. Hand sanitizer was then put into our hands. Our bags sprayed with some form of spray. Then we went through immigration and security. Again, that was done. And then at the boarding gate, that was also done again. So I think 4 or 5 times we had our temperatures taken in the 1.5 hours at the airport.
That's extraordinary. Okay, so you hop on the plane, you fly over, you land in Australia. What did you notice at our airport?
So yesterday afternoon we landed. So the only direct flight we could get was to Brisbane, and then we connected to Melbourne. So we landed in Brisbane. We're given the normal immigration card, which we filled out. We're also given a piece of paper that said Queensland Health, or something like that. We filled that out with our address and our details. Got off the plane with, I think, all 11 passengers. We went to a desk that was set up, which was manned by Queensland police officers in Queensland police uniform. He asked us about where we'd been. We gave him the piece of paper and he said, "Are you transiting?" transiting to where? Transiting to Melbourne. He said, oh, you no need to fill out this form. Disregarded the form and said that when you land in Melbourne, you'll be met by Victorian police and officials, and they will then take the details and find out where you're staying. Popped on our Qantas flight, didn't have any temperature or hand sanitizer, nothing at all. Haven't seen one since being back. Landed in Melbourne, didn't see any officials. Walked through the airport, saw a police officer standing there, wasn't asked any questions, collected our bags, and got picked up by my dad and went into isolation. Victorian government didn't ask or didn't require anything.
That's extraordinary. So if you had got off the plane with a raging temperature, no one here would ever know?
No one would know. I'm assuming if you landed in the international terminal in Melbourne, they would potentially do that, but transiting from Brisbane to Melbourne, the transit procedure doesn't seem to have any form of formal checks or balances. There are also a lot of Queensland health officials and police at Brisbane Airport in the domestic and international terminal. We saw multiple desks set up, but in Melbourne Airport there was absolutely nothing.
Now, I know that you're putting yourself in self-isolation, as all international visitors have to do for 2 weeks. But as far as you can tell, no one in authority actually knows where you are.
No, I don't believe there'd be any way. The only form where we put our address on, and we're staying at my mum and dad's country house up in country Victoria, the only address, and we put that address on the Queensland Health form, but the police officer, just said disregard that. The Victorian police will do it. That didn't happen.
Matt, this is an amazing story. It's a shocking story. But also there's an inspiration that if we fought this virus with the seriousness that Taiwan does, that we could have a functioning economy and a lower rate of death.
Absolutely, and that's what impacted us. I mean, we had been reading the news, what had been happening in Australia from being in Taiwan, but we were also living life in Taiwan and seeing how they were doing things. So it definitely caused my partner and I to think when we landed here that surely things could be done somewhat different, in a somewhat different fashion.
Look, I just hope people are paying attention to this, Matt, because what you're telling us, to me, like I say, is shocking in terms of how we're going about it, but also I hope inspirational in the way that Taiwan is showing us the way. Thank you so much indeed for talking to me.
No problem. Thanks, Andrew.